do you have any kind of different of opinion regarding that? Do you find any kind of connection? Is there any connection between the number of words which are fitting? If it is even, it is not going ahead, but it is odd, then okay. Of course, Mr. Arnoop Panda is saying there is no connection. Of course, there is no connection as far as investment decision are concerned. But why is that? It a kind of thought which has come into his mind. So this is something which is a kind of irrationality or a kind of subconsciously human being or a human body takes up a decision which is out of his control. And therefore, this essential part or a discipline of which we call it as the behavioral finance, we tend to study the various dimensions of the behavioral biases which are likely to impact the decision making influencing of any individual or investor, be it at institutional level or at a individual level. So before working with the RBI chair for a few of this project, very short period, I was also into some kind of investment activities. But one of the things that I found, it was most recently, which attracted me was in behavioral finance, is that I can see certain mistakes that which I had made as an investor. And I can pretty much laugh at the history of myself that who was all making these mistakes. There are still chances that even if I go back into investment, I will again make those mistakes. But the difference will be that now at least I know that what are the mistakes which I am going to make. And that can pretty much make me alert in terms of avoiding such kind of behavioral hacks. So, as an individual, the market has been open to lot of tracking mechanism and information are widely available. As you, I hope everybody are of us present over here, they are in any one of the social media sites. Yes. So we tend to keep on posting our activities over there, and all those activities is being picked up, and you might not get a surprise when you found your choices, your preferences, your trend pattern being hacked, isn't it? So as the market are touching new highs, so everyone is looking for the next hotspot. When it is an investor, as an investor, be it I'm investing into the stock market or I'm going into any kind of investment in various cryptos. So every time as a buyer, I would keep my eyes upon that what are those hot stocks which can make me rich, but probably they won't. So over the long run, while the total stock market would do well, most of the individuals might not. So therefore, a very possible impact of investor sentiments on the financial market has been a very, very important subject of considerable interest, and that has carried a level of interest amongst those academicians to get into the behavior of such investment management professionals. If I look into the finance world, which is very much driven into a set formula, when I say set formula, that means we are very much likely to follow a very, very tried and tested model, either it is the Monte model or the efficient market hypothesis or the portfolio market. So we tend to assume that all our information is available with us. But the finance professionals often describe the unconventional certain herding principles. There are certain rational kind of attitude which has created a level of irrationality, particularly during the COVID times. We have seen the market struggling with a lot of emotional traps. There has been psychological barrier, and the market moods have been changing. So, in this popular kind of theory of behavioral finance, when you look into this underlying principle which motivates such kind of financial behavior, which is, as very rightly stated by Professor Praveen, when he say that when we are integrating the essence of psychology into the world of finance and economics, that is where you tend to bring about the investors having a kind of interplay between their psychology with that of the market. So, with that, let me start with my presentation as far as how do the behavioral finance operate and how an investor particularly gets impacted due to the process which are involved as far as the decision making is concerned. So I hope my slide is visible to every one of you. Yeah. So in that sense, so as I belong to KIT, who is our honorable founder, sir, Dr. Shikta Singh, who is the MP of Lok Sabha, and he is the visionary behind leading up such an educational empire. And we are thankful for the way of education which has been created and the sister concern of KIT, which is KISS, dealing with more than 30,000 children where education and all those amenities are provided free of cost. So when you look into the various levels of cases, you can see that a robot, which is completely mechanized, is tend to behave rationally. On the other hand, is human being completely rational? Can every one of us present over here clearly state that yes, we are all rational? Yes, no? Are we always rational? So there can be certain degree of opportunity where the minds, that means when the subconscious mind bounds to take up certain kind of irrational decision. And that is why, particularly when you are dealing with a very complex situation, when you dig into research where the cause and effect are well known, then there is no certainty in terms of going ahead. But when you tend to know that the cause and effect relationship are uncertain and unknown, going by the very extent of irrational exuberance, then you get to find out a path where the research now begins. Again, what can you see over here in the first side of this picture? What is the first kind of thought which is coming to your mind once you see this picture? Yeah, can I get some quick response? Before getting into the technicalities, I just wanted to build up some connection so that it becomes easier because I was briefed that much of this crowd are pretty much new into this discipline. So I'm creating a balance. Yes, can anyone tell me that what you notice? I hope this picture is visible to everyone. Frustration. Okay, a frustration. How much seconds did you did it take to just make a decision regarding this kind of appearance? Did it take more time? Yes, ma'am. Or within seconds, you could very well say that, okay, this is a kind of emotion which says anger or frustration. But the other side, if I ask to solve this, which will be relatively easier? To recognize the first picture or to solve the second one? Hello? Which one will be easier? The first one or the second one? First one. Of course, the first one. Why? Because this is what is the system one of the brain sees. So everybody of us, whatever qualities we are adapted with, for our brain, it takes no time to recognize that what is what. But there is the system two part of the brain, which is something which requires time and effort to come into a level of decision. So therefore, this part of the discipline of behavioral finance, it operates into two zones, the system one and system two. And every human being is systemized with these two systems. At some point of time, you will automatically, without any effort, you can come across that what is going on and to come upon a kind of remark or a decision. But at certain point of time, there is a huge amount of mental activity which is involved. So your brain starts thinking whenever it comes into complex calculation. So therefore, this system one, which are many in terms of figuring out, be it to detect one of the objective which is closer to another, or to comprehend a very simple, or to listen to a music and identify that which is your favorite one. Within no time, you will be able to respond to that. But on the contrary, there are many of those aspects where it will require certainly some amount of time, and this is what is piloting towards the system two of this brain. So Daniel Kahneman, who is supposed to be the founder of the essence of behavioral finance, he is essentially looking into these two journals of system one and system two, and therefore research also digs into this two part of the brain, and that is how, be it an individual or an institution, they tend to look upon both sides of the system one and system two. Again, what do you notice in these two pictures? Yes, any difference? Hello? Can you make a sense of association or dissociation between these two pictures, which are likely to be shown on the screen? How do humans behave with respect to these two position of cars? If you remember way back when you had your Fiat or Ambassador and a supercar with a speed of more than 200 kilometer per hour. So how do the brain sensitizes to the position of these two cars? Has the number of deaths in accidents increased or decreased with the coming up the modern cars? what do you notice? Even if the old heart, there were large number of limitations, and a major limitation was the speed. So is it not that the limitation had made a conscious effort on the human being? Because whatever I may do, I cannot drive, my speedometer will not go beyond a level of 50 to 60 kilometer per hour. But the very moment I am aware about that I am having no limitation, my speedometer can go up to a great extent. There, the tendency to make mistakes come. So having seat belts, having air balloons, having a high degree of speedometers, is it not that relaxes the human brain that okay, I am safe now? But the very essence of having a limitation that I am not safe, that stops you to make mistake. But the very safest possible feature, nothing can happen to me, and there is one that I am having to top of the human. Yes, feeling no, having this. So that is what the irrationality creeps over the rational mind, and this is a very very essential part when you say that did behavioral finance came about as a way to explain rationally the irrational behavior of yes or no? In fact, you have possible scope. uh, Finance is just to make the market aware that yes, such factors also do exist. In our conventional form of economics or finance theories, we pretty much look into those markets which have, okay, we know that these are the factors which already they have been existing and they will pretty much have an impact. But more than that, there are certain behavioral factors which we will come across some of those dimensions. People have never ever realized that these factors in fact had a more say on upon this the factors which are pretty much evident in terms of its conventional theories. Discipline of behavioral finance attracted the interest of the academician and investors, and it is true that it has created a form of amalgamation between the psychology, finance, and economic theories, thereby combining the efforts. And that is what essentially one has to realize because when we talk about investors, yes, of course, investors are normal, but you cannot ignore the fact that apart from them being an investor, the investor himself or herself is a human being. And being a human being, there can be possibility where one can stand out to take certain degrees of irrational financial decisions. So therefore, It is necessary because there has been the technical and fundamental analysis which make people to act rationally. But beyond that, when you go deeper into the facts of the study, it is more likely towards having a deeper imprint of irrationality rather than that of the rational decision making. So, if we go by our traditional finance models, where we take up the market and the investors, as I stated earlier, they work on a very set rules. Everything is under a straight fit jacket. And we come under an assumption that provided these assumptions are taken, then the model will work. Otherwise, the model will not work. But every time we cannot work under a set of assumptions. Therefore, this part of the theory where we have been operating and a very, very popular model of operational is our efficient market hypothesis. I hope those who are the faculty members and the students of finance and economics, they are pretty much aware and about the system of EMH, where we tend to get information either in the form of whatever weak form on the basis of the past prices or on the basis of a semi-strong form, which are where we state that all the public information are available, and now we have a rich level of open source where a lot of data are amidst us. And therefore, the strongest form of the outer circle believes in inclusion of not only public but also the private information. So, therefore, as far as the finance world is concerned, we assume that we can very well categorize our information, and provided these information are within us, within our reach, we are ready to take any decision, isn't it? But that is where again we might go wrong. EMH, even if has been tried and tested in many of those theories and research, but when it looks into those inclusion of the behavioral component, there was a different kind of findings as far as the functionality of EMH model. So EMH didn't work in a similar manner if we'll take up certain kind of intervening factor as far as if I tend to see that as far as integrating loss aversion factor or mental accounting, if I see that is there any changes or not, then certainly I will find that as far as behavioral labs are working, you will find some degree of influencer where the human beings is being affected, and therefore they might get into a wrong decisions if this kind of behavioral biases are not taken care of. And that is why, essentially, this part of the discipline, which is the behavioral finance, looks out all those rudimentary the assumptions of the conventional and the traditional finance, and they tend to integrate the irrationality part of human being, which pretty much one cannot ignore about. So when we look into this two part of micro and macro, of course, as we know that when we are dealing with individual, the behavioral biases for an individual will definitely work in a different manner from that of which is the case of the financial market. Let me cite another very, very emerging that the very in the past it has happened, the housing bubble crash. So do you think that the US housing bubble crash which happened, It was financial completely. The reasons were financial. Why did the prices crashed? Because each and everyone started buying houses at US, and it has escalated the increase in the demand and so as the pricing. But as we know that every peaks will have a burst, the market failed to realize that there will be a point where the market will get saturated. So if there are a larger number of houses in comparison to the number of buyers, the market has to crash. So in that sense, apart from those fundamental reason of the crash, there was more of the behavioral factors or the influencers which was a major reason for the housing bubble crash. And therefore, we need to study all those market inefficiencies and those various levels of emotional rights which can not be avoided, at least when we are dealing with the essence of the finance and the creative world. So you can very much see that the entire process of investment, it is taking up a toll of a roller coaster ride. So as an investor, when you look into the market, you start watching the various trends, and there are various possible sites which you can follow and keep a close needed watch on the market, and you can have a watch and you can start taking up your beliefs and start investing. But there can be certain situation where you think that why doesn't the banking association works, and there are certain kind of news based upon this, and you feel that there is a high time the market crashes, and you think that you need to sell off your winners and hold on to your losers. And that is how there are different, because it is maybe fear factor within you. If you are a risk averse, you will try to take out all your winning stocks now, because you think that okay, after that it may happen the prices might crash and you may not be able to get a best price for the time. So the various emotions within a person, the fear, the greed, that also needs to be studied when the investor's journey of investment mechanism is being studied. So with more than a practice or an existence of standard finance world, the very birth of behavioral finance has been very, very recent. After Carmen in his work has considered, and his book, you can, if you are interested, please go through the book, which is The Nudge, and the psychology of investment has been very clearly mentioned about how should one tend to take up all those dimensions while going ahead in terms of the research. So every individual, maybe these mental graphics are not visible, but there are somewhat, it is there in our mind. Before making any kind of investment, a different sets of ideas, thoughts come before you. So when you say that, okay, I have an information that this stock is going to come up and I should start investing, that means who is giving you this information, or it is completely your instinct? Is it completely the human instinct which is responsible for carrying out the decision to invest? If yes, then I must say that you are pretty much affected by the level of hindsight bias, which is a dimension of behavioral finance. If you see that my research confirms that it is it's a great stock and I must start investing my money into that, again, I must say that you are affected by confirmatory bias. If you have proven the system for picking the winning managers, then of course you have to come across this decision. Or you look into the trend of a market, you have been studying a pattern and get to know that okay, this looks pretty much good and I should start going and investing into that. Then again, you are looking into a form of algorithmic pattern of anchoring bias where you anchor upon a particular set of prices and you feel that okay, this was the price, this was high the price, and I should go ahead taking that as an anchor, then you are subject to the anchoring bias. So, in a way, there are many such kind of diamonds we term the form behavioral finance, and that's what one essentially needs to. So, the idea behind the essence of behavioral finance comes with these two great personalities who are Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who has very well integrated into their ideas of human emotions, human thoughts to be integrated into the arena of psychology, and they have come very well come up into the disciplines of behavioral finance and behavioral economics. Any thoughts on this person? Hannah? Exactly. Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope I have a virtual chocolate so that I can hand over to you. So exactly, ma'am. And the three ideas which make him got the Nobel Prize in 2017. Any kind of idea on this? The three ideas which essentially now researchers look into and they have followed the works of Thaler to get into these ideas of making them to find that corporate finance, banking sector, hotel industry, FIIBs, do they have the impact of all these dimensions? And let me say that in many of these researches, it has been found that all these factors have created a significant impact on the level of change as far as bounded rationality is concerned, the lack of self control, nudges, as well as the positive reinforcement, which you can call it as. India being a population of 130 crore, was it easy to vaccinate everyone during this COVID time? It was not that easy. And particularly those who were belonging to the lowest segment of the population because they have an idea that some vaccine which is not tried and tested, it might be harmful. So that group of population was not at all ready to come up with a vaccination. But a very small theory, which you can term it as this nudge, had been successful in terms of taking up. You would never imagine what happened in some of these places. It was find that if you complete the first dose, there was a distribution of 1 kilos of lentils and a baggage of groceries which were available to those residents. And it was found that the number of people, those were not a part of the vaccination drive, eventually started coming in. And this was a kind of nudge or an incentive because in economics, all of you, we know that people respond to incentives, be it in terms of monetary or it is non-monetary, but people respond to incentives. And that is what it was found that this has actually leveraged the level of vaccination drive, and due to that, a rate of success has increased. And this is essentially was the intervention of nudge into the working mechanism. As far as the bounded rationality is concerned, when you say that the theory where the consumers have a limited or rational decision making, and they are essentially driven by three essential factors, which you can pick up as your cognitive ability, certain kind of time constraint, and certain kind of imperfect information. I hope many of you have gone to a restaurant and ordered you yourself your meal. But whenever you are in a hurry, what do? You go and ask that whatever is the quickest possible thing which is available, you get me that. And you overdo with your subset favorite meal. So that is what again you are, maybe because of the time constant, you are tending to make a suboptimal decisions because you feel that you are in a hurry. So that is what there has been many circumstances where people are having a sense of bounded rationality, and that is exactly what Richard Thaler has presented in his work as nudge is concerned. Maintaining social distancing. If you won't be surprised, this was again an application of a nudge theory and which was used by the government in order to prohibit and reduce the spread of the virus. So therefore, when we talk about the various sense of behavioral biases in the decision making process, there can be certain enigmas of self deception, heuristics, emotions, and social influence. And therefore, when you come into the decision making, we are to some extent be perplexed with your factor of self deceptions, or there can be certain heuristics. Heuristics are simply the rule of thumb which are in action, which are representative of whatever you go by, whatever everyone is going for. So, therefore, various sets of information processing errors can be possible because of the underlying principle of heuristics. Again, the cobwebs of emotions, particularly if a person is a highly emotional one, then his rational thinking completely goes out of place. So, therefore, emotion also takes into a very, very essential part of decision making. And yes, it is very much important that what is your mental state or condition when you are actually looking into a major decision, be it coming up with the board meetings or finalizing a contract or to go ahead with any possible level of investment. And of course, social